So hi, my name is Kojo.
My name's Edgar.
Today we're doing another episode of the Hard Truths podcast. Last week we just talked a little about living for the world versus living for God, and today we're just gonna come to you with a little bit more about discipline and self-control. So Edgar, I'm gonna just throw it to you. And what do you think about discipline?
Discipline, if I had to give it a definition, I would say is the ability to control your impulses, emotions, and behaviors, regardless of any outcomes. So the way I look at it is if I had to give an example, if I had to tell myself I'm gonna go to the gym every day at 6 a.m., I go at 6 a.m., no matter if it's raining, snowing, or if I just don't even feel like going, because I'm disciplined to go.
Yeah, so more of just kind of forgetting really the outcome of what you got to do, but just doing the actions to it. Just understanding that to be disciplined, you just really have to, regardless of how, like I said, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you may think, or if you're upset or whatever the case is, doing what you have to do, because the outcome of doing that, whatever it is you have to do, will be great. And a lot of times we can get so caught up in more of our emotions and things like that, to where it's like, say if I'm upset today, right, and something bad happened, but I still have X, Y, and Z to do to cover, your whole world don't stop just because something happened. Now, I'm not saying if maybe there was a death in the family or this or that, but it'll be some of the cases of where, like, oh, my car broke down, or I'm feeling a little like sick, not sick to the point where you're like, but like a little like tiny sick. Our whole day sometimes gets thrown off by like the littlest things, and it's say, or just something little like, oh, somebody pushed me or this or that, whatever the case. We still have to be disciplined enough to know that what we have to get done today still has to get done.
100%.
It's more of just understanding, like, just that, like, um complexity right there. Just understanding, like, we have things in the day that needs to be get done regardless of how we feel, because sometimes we don't like to do a lot of the things that we said to do.
Mhm.
So I mean, I know for me personally, a lot of the times I may not want to go. Like, I can use the example of the gym. I may not want to go to work. Or now what would happen if I don't go to work? Now it's like I'm letting other people suffer who have to. If I'm not there at the job, there's other people got to take on my task for the day. So I'm letting other people suffer for me not showing up, for me not being disciplined enough to just show up there, and now other people are suffering because of me.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying?
So it's like a heavier workload just because you decided not to go in one sense.
Yeah, it could be a heavier workload, or if it depends, like how you said, emotions.
Hmm.
So say if you're not disciplined in your emotions, or you lack self control in your emotions, there's consequences to that lack of self control. So it could be, how you want to say it, could be more of like, say if you act out, say if Edgar would have he got mad at me for something, right? Now Edgar has two choice. Now I have two choices. If he got mad at me, I have the choice to either, well, he has a choice to either he could just harm me,
Hmm.
or he could just look upon me and just be like, all right, now if I harm Kojo, now there could be a like an exceeded level of some type of, you know what I'm saying?
Wouldn't it be on your end though? So like, put it this way: if I lash out to you, you have two ways of going about it. You
Oh
can
yeah, my
either
fault. Yeah,
react
yeah, yeah.
or not react.
Mm-hmm.
So that ties into self control. If you had to give a definition for self control, what would you say?
Self control is just preventing yourself from doing things that you know you shouldn't do. So just it's just a more of like making sure that you, in any situation, that you understand that there's consequences to that situation. You understand, you think of the consequence before you do whatever you got to do. But there's also like a good form of self control and a good form of discipline.
Hmm.
So say for example, if well, God says in Hebrews 12:11 that discipline, once you are, basically it says, once you are trained by discipline, it reaps a righteous fruit, basically. So that just means that once you are trained by it, later on down the line you will get a reward for that. So basically we're working on hard truths, right? So we came up with the designs for these pants and these hoodies. So it took time to do that. So that took like an effort every day, a consistency of showing up every day, just to be able to make it.
Yeah.
So I forgot how long it took us, whatever, but we made it. So that discipline to show up every single day, an outcome came out of it that was beautiful. So it's not what we was talking about. So self control. One thing I would say also about self control is one thing why we may find it hard to is because we put ourselves in positions to where we have to with that we shouldn't be into. And now we're so basically so say if you don't want to drink today, right?
Yeah.
And your friends ask you, oh yo, you trying to go to the bar?
Okay.
So now it's like, all right, you got two options. You know you don't you just sought out not to drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, all right, if I go to this bar, what am I gonna be tempted with?
Drinking.
To drink.
Okay.
So it's more of it's also like kind of just putting yourself in situations you don't need to be into. Cause now you have to exercise self control because you put yourself in that position.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's like, why would you really put yourself in a position where you need to use self control?
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you know what I'm saying. So it's more of just kind of.
So, isn't it like the saying that like somebody once said that like avoidance is just it's like it's better than what is it? It was along the lines of saying, avoiding it entirety is better than just like a little bit.
Avoiding it entirely is better than just.
Entirely, yeah.
Oh yeah, nah. Because even a little bit. Because if you do something a little bit, it becomes a pattern. Then it
Mhm.
becomes a habit. So if you avoid it entirely, it will just be. So another thing he talks about how basically when you're disciplined, it'll just be healing. It'll be healing to your. So basically, when you're disciplined, it'll just be more healing to your flesh. When you suffer, it's healing to your flesh. And what I mean by that is when you do the things that are uncomfortable. So when you're disciplined and you keep trying to be disciplined throughout your day, it's uncomfortable, but it brings healing to your flesh because our flesh loves to be comfortable. Our flesh loves to do things that are very comfortable, but our spirit likes to get uncomfortable because that uncomfortable discipline is what really leads us to the life that God has for us and the life that God wants us to live. So it's more of just one thing I suggest that even I have to ask myself all the time is how can I get uncomfortable today, and then just structuring your life to be more disciplined because the fruits that can come out of that is beautiful.
Wait, what you mean? How can I get uncomfortable today?
All right, so ready? Do you want to like who really wants to go to the gym every day? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
Well, unless I mean, some people find it fun, but some people don't find it fun. Or matter of fact, who really wants to go to work every day? Nobody. I promise you, nobody wants to work 9 to 5 every day. But now, once you work that 9 to 5, you got to check at the end of the week or every 2 weeks, whatever, right? But if you don't work that 9 to 5, you get nothing. Or hard truths, if we don't
Work on
it, nothing happens, and we don't accomplish what we set out to do. So it's more of just that uncomfortability, that showing up for 3 hours every day or however many times you have to do it. Nobody really wants to do that every day. Sometimes it might be fine, but that's the discipline that you have to have, that we have to have to get what you want to do or get what you really want to be at. And you know what I'm saying? So even me, I struggle with this every day, just more in the lines of just being disciplined in multiple areas, more of my focus. Like I'm not really disciplined in being structured. Even like self-control in terms of just what I put in front of my face, like meaning what I watch, what I hear. Like I slack on that sometimes. Like one day I'll be good, another day I'll be bad, but then I'll like flip flop, and now like it's just all over the place.
Yeah, like one thing I'm trying to do now is build the habit of going to the gym, but like with nobody. Cause if you end up going to the gym with someone, it becomes a habit to the point where you won't go to the gym unless it's with someone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're trying to get out the habit of just like.
Right, I'll give you an example. Today, I went to the gym, but before going to the gym, I was gonna go to the gym with Dre. So he didn't text me like an hour. Like put it this way, the time that we scheduled to go to the gym is when he texted me.
Right.
So I was under the impression like, oh damn, like I could low-key skip today. He ain't hit me back.
Right.
And then I was just like, nah, I can't do that. And the next thing you know, he's like, yo, I'm ready in 15. Pull up. And then we ended up going. But like yesterday, he couldn't go. I forced myself to go to the gym. I forced myself to hit legs even. Just so it's like.
And leg day is a hard day too. So.
Yeah, leg day is a day that you just try to avoid. But once I did it, you feel so much better.
Yeah, it's like, cause yeah, that's another thing. You'll feel better afterwards too, cause you might not want to done it. You might not have wanted to do it, but afterwards you're like, I was really disciplined enough to really
Mhm.
just go and accomplish the thing I set out to do. And like that's just more of it, like just really just understanding like the benefits that you would gain from it, because you gain no satisfaction from being lazy. Like once when I was a lazy person, even sometimes I could still be a little lazy, but when I was like a really lazy person,
You don't do anything.
you don't do nothing. There's no satisfaction when you have no discipline or structure. You're just like wasting. You can't just wasting your life. Like it's just going like this.
Yeah. A thought that just came to my head is like, if you're someone who's lazy, and the way you look at the day is you look at the day as a long day because you're not productive. Someone who is productive is gonna look at the day as a short day because they had a lot to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know how people be like, "Oh, the day went by fast." It's because
It's because you was
you
productive.
was productive. You
If
was
you
doing
weren't
something.
productive and you was just like chilling, doing nothing, you can be like, damn, 10 minutes just went by,
Yeah.
20 minutes went by. That's a long time.
Why do you
Question.
think?
Oh, what's up?
Why you think you like we as a whole like lack discipline?
Um, because it's comfortable, it's easy, it's the easier route to go.
Mm-hmm.
So when lacking discipline, um, you just might not want to do whatever it is that you want to do.
I'm more look at it like an outcome. We was talking about it yesterday. So when you don't know the outcome to something, or you don't know your outcome or where you want to go, when you have no structure, you're not gonna want to do anything because you don't even know where you're going.
Mm.
So it's more of like if right. So we make task lists every day for our brand to see what we have to do and accomplish. But if we didn't have a task list, it would generalize everything. We wouldn't really know what we wanted to do and focus on. So it's kind of like hard to be disciplined on something that you're
Yeah,
not focused on.
it's like if we met up, we would just be like, all right, what do
What do we have to do?
we? Yeah,
But not would we really get anything done because we wouldn't know what to tackle. We weren't structured. So I feel like especially when why we lack discipline is more of like there's no structure in our lives, and it's also like distractions.
100%.
Like I was talking to my boy at work today. We was like somebody was like, I think a lot of people are more just lazy. I was like, I don't even really think we're lazy for real. I just think we just be so distracted. And what I mean by that is, so you know the cliche, oh, you work hard, you get whatever you want, whatever the case may be, right? So
Yeah.
that thought is also in our head, but then there's also thoughts about some beef about a rapper. But then there's also thoughts about how much points bro scored yesterday, which like I'm not saying none of these things is bad, but just listen real correct. Like there's also thoughts about like yo, what is that girl wearing? Or what is that boy wearing? Or there's also thoughts about, yo, I'm about to get these sneakers on Saturday. This video game, right? So that's like 7 thoughts rolling in your head. But out of those 7, which one is the most important?
Yeah.
And that's the work hard. See what I'm saying? We all
Yeah.
know it, but we can't hone into just that one thing,
Okay.
that like one thought. So that's what I'm really think we're not lazy or disciplined. We just so I think we're more distracted, and that's why we can't be disciplined.
Okay. Now, do you feel like self control or discipline is harder to? I wouldn't say obtain, but I would say follow.
Self control, discipline. I mean, they're both kind of aligned in the same way.
It does, but I would look at it as like,
I would say self control though, because
yeah,
we're all tempted by something. Like each one of us have our own things that like we struggle to do.
so self control is harder or easier?
Harder. It would
Harder.
have to be harder.
Okay.
I mean, because discipline is more of just you have to. Nah, I mean it's the same to me. It basically goes hand in hand. So they're both hard in their own way because there's something that each of us struggle with that we don't want to do. So
Okay.
it's more of like since we don't want to do it, like self control is just more trying to overcome that. And God says, don't let anything master you. So don't let anything master you. In a way that I feel like that can help all of us is more of just once we go to Him and tell Him the problems that we have, and we stay away from, and I mean stay away from the things that we're struggling to be disciplined or have self control in. Is more of just not even putting ourselves in a situation or the area.
Okay.
And then it's like anything. Since you keep falling into that trap, there's patterns. Like sometimes we even do it to ourselves, and most of the time,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. I don't even think
Yeah.
like the devil knows our tendencies, our weaknesses, what we lack of self control in.
You're gonna just throw it in our face.
Exactly. But then oftentimes we really just do it to ourselves. So it's really more of just avoiding them, but when it does happen, understanding that God gave us one of the fruits that He gave us was self control. So believing that you have that, and all it takes is literally just to believe. All He says is all it takes is just to believe. So once you believe in that you have that fruit in your spirit, because He is with us and He had it too, so that's a characteristic of Him. And
Believe in the self-control within.
exactly believe
Okay.
that you have full self control. That will also help. And then just break it. And once you believe that, just break in the pattern, because there's a pattern on how
You do things.
you do things, and there's a pattern on why you struggle with this temptation, why you don't
Okay.
have self control over the temptation. But once you break that pattern, you can also make a whole new pattern and gain control over that self control or discipline, whatever you lack.
Okay.
So it's really just hand in hand.
All right.
I
I
don't know
like
how
that.
you look at it, but
The way I would wait.
like more of how would you? Because you asked like, is it easier? I kind of more think it's aligned. I don't really think one's easier than the other.
True.
They more just
Well,
kind of like.
I would say depends how you look at it though, because I look at it as two different things. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I look at it as two different things, though they do align, discipline is more of, I would say, action based. So you're doing something um, of the characteristics for discipline rather than self control is more internally. So you have to restrain yourself from doing something rather than doing something that you don't want to do. If I had to compare the two, I would say kind of, yeah, it does go hand in hand. So I would say that
I
self,
remember yesterday said it was like behavioral, like self
yeah.
control.
So self control is more of like a behavioral thing, and I feel like discipline is more of like an actionable thing.
Oh, I see what you meant. So yeah, it would be a little different in that way. If you yeah, because it really does depend on you look. Action, behavioral. I mean, yeah, I see what you're
But
saying.
they do go hand in hand because
Mm-hmm.
like your self control can be something that's an actionable thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like controlling yourself like to drive like a regular human being. Like some struggle with that, some don't. You just heard that. You just heard that. You know what I mean? But in all seriousness, I would say that they do go hand in hand. But one thing to take into account is just continue to be aware of what you're going through and what you're doing. Because if you're not aware that you don't have any self control, it's probably because you don't have any structure. And if you don't have any structure, then you're not disciplined. And if you don't have these things, then you're just moving in a cycle that's just going to continue to just hurt you.
And it's okay to admit that you don't have self control. I go to God and I tell Him that the
Mm-hmm.
areas of self control that I lack in, which is mostly just focus and putting my minds in areas that I don't need to be into, and meaning just like because once our we get tempted by our own desires. So if you struggle with lust, with uh, what whatever you struggle with is more of just because of what you put your mind to and your eyes to. So once you do that, it goes into your heart. So now you're just gonna desire it. So mostly, I would say just be careful what you watch and what you see and what you hear and what you say, because those is mostly the problems of why we struggle with self control and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really more of just going to him with those problems and just giving it to him. And what I mean by giving it to him, tell him that because he hears us and he wants to know what's going on in our everyday lives. He wants to know what we struggle with. And I would say also too, just write down what you struggle with and don't be afraid to admit it to yourself. Because if you don't admit it to yourself, you're just gonna be lying to yourself. But if once you admit it to yourself, you're aware of the problem. So now at least you know what you struggle with. Now you know your habits, your bad habits. So once you understand them, you can kind of like depict them and like understand. I bet this is
Yeah.
what I got to work on. This is what I need to work on. This is what I'm good at. This is what I
Mm-hmm.
need more structure. And this is what I need to be more disciplined in. This is what I lack self control in. And I think once um you figure that out, those weaknesses just become your strengths now.
Mm-hmm. What I would
So
say is don't beat yourself up once you like write down the list though, because some people, such as myself, might be like, okay, top of the list to be more focused,
mm,
and then it's like you try testing yourself by reading a book, and it's less like, oh, you're not gonna read the whole book in one day, so
mm,
don't beat yourself up. Start doing like 5 pages, 10 pages, then a chapter, 2 chapters, then do an hour, and then just see how it goes. You have to build these steps up because I feel like if you try to attack it in one sense of trying to fix it in one day, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I had to learn that with reading. Like I
I'm struggling. I gotta learn that too right now.
yeah, like I only do right now. I only do 5 pages a day, so I would try to read for like 20, 30 minutes, but then I would stop reading
hmm
because I was just like how he said, just make sure it's not like you're not attacking it all at once. And it's a small thing reading. I mean, like it's nothing crazy, but it's just more of like if I said I was gonna do it,
Do it.
that's what I'm saying. So like that's my like that's the discipline of like, all right, bet I told myself I'm gonna read. So now I should just be disciplined enough to show up every day and read. But since I was trying to attack it like 30 minutes, which is a long time to really just be sitting there reading, I was like, I bet I'm all gonna do is 5, 10 pages a day. So at least I gave myself like a frame. So it's either 5 or 10. So it's like between there too. So
You can stop whenever you feel like it.
exactly. So
Whenever
it's
it
just
feels like too much.
yeah, just
Stop.
having that discipline, and the outcome of it is I'm learning about something, more knowledge. And
hmm
because if you don't show up and you're not disciplined, there's something that you want you won't get because you didn't even take the time to just do what you need to do. You weren't consistent enough or disciplined enough to stand on what you said, or just, you know what I'm saying. So it's like, and discipline also don't happen. You also need to exercise discipline and self-control. So you will go through tests and trials. God put tests and trials in your life so that you can, he'll put the things that you're struggling with in, not to he won't tempt you, but he'll test you, and just to see, all right, did you learn what I have taught you? Did you learn that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a question for you
So
though. So I feel like a generalized question, but how would one know it whether or not they're being tested or tempted?
mm,
Yo, this is a test.
nah,
I,
so
I get
because
tested, I'd be like, I like to be aware that I'm getting tested or tempted, because
yes.
then it's like I can decide how I'm gonna go from that.
So basically, in the story of Job, God God allowed the devil to tempt Job. So Job was a wealthy man who had everything,
hmm
rich,
I heard of
power,
this.
you know what I'm
Continue
saying?
though.
Like power, whatever the case may be. But then Satan went down and was talking to God. It was just basically like he
Hello.
basically said, "Yo, I bet if I took everything away from him, he wouldn't be as loyal to him, or he wouldn't be as
He's gonna
faithful.
fold
He's gonna
basically.
fold." And long story short, Job didn't fold. So it's back to how your question is: does how do you know if you're being tempted or tested? God will never tempt you, but he'll give the devil the approval to test you, because God doesn't he doesn't tempt you, but he'll just give the
Mm,
approval, like,
okay.
yo, like I know he's not gonna fold.
Yeah.
So it's more of just,
It's like he trusts you, but just do you trust yourself?
mm, it's more, do you trust, it's not even do you
Like,
trust yourself, it's do you trust in his word. So
okay,
like, you said you trust yourself,
yeah,
you trust in what he said about you. Because if you know what
okay.
I'm saying, like if he's telling you have self-control, I know me personally, I can't do anything without him. When I don't go to him, I don't speak to him, that's when all the self-control and all the discipline goes out the window,
Mhm.
because I'm not going to the one who is true. I'm not going to the one who has the characteristic of self-control, has the characteristic of discipline.
Okay.
And it's like, if you try to do that on your own, you're basically saying, I don't need you. I don't need your self control, because that be saying I have full self control on my own. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
But we really don't, because I promise you, if we don't go to God, I've seen it in my own life.
Yeah.
Once I stopped really going to Him for a certain period of time and listening to His truth, I started drinking again, smoking, vaping, and all that other stuff again,
hmm
because I didn't go to the person who had the self control. But once
Yeah.
I went back to Him, it disappeared again.
Yeah.
So it's more like he'll never tempt us. He'll just allow it, just like how he did Job, to see. It's like the test when the teacher gives you like a math test, but he
hmm
prepares you for it. So it's like, even like every day, there's something that we have to go through, that's either being like little things that's tempting us,
hmm
or things like that. But he's just allowing it to happen, just
Right.
so we can like gain that perseverance, that endurance, to know when it comes down to like the big tests. It's like, I bet I know we're gonna pass. So it's like, yeah.
So, isn't it kind of like what we talked about the other day, where it was just like if you're not honoring the commitments that you made to God, how can you like do it in any other aspect?
Yeah, you're not really gonna, if you can't. So basically, since he loves us the most, if we can't love the person who loves us the most, there's no way, nowhere we're gonna be able to love anybody else or do anything else. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing.
Yeah.
So apart from him, you could try to do it on your own will and your strength, but it's just not possible. Like I know me personally, like coming to go work on this and that every single day is not on my own strength. When I'm struggling with self-control or discipline, I have to go to him to give me the strength and the courage to rise me up to be able to overcome that. So it's more of like if you struggle with anything or you need help in anything or you want to go start your own brand and business or whatever the case may be, I would say just even though it's a little bit off topic, I'll say just go to him because apart from him, you cannot do any of that on your own, like at all. It's just like it just depends what your goal is, not to win. Because you could probably you could definitely get. I think you could do things without him, but it won't be the best thing for you. You can do it. You could get rich without him. You can get.
Oh, it's more like if you have a worldly goal, you could probably achieve it without him. But if
it just may not be. It just won't. No, it won't be the best life for you.
Yeah, like I don't know, but like how do we put it in the aspect of God? Because it's just like if it's a worldly thing, like the devil's gonna give you that and more because he wants you to like go to him rather than God.
Yeah. Like he'll give you that. Like it basically more of just, all right, if I have a goal, say if my heart is in a bad place, it's not pure, and I have a goal, I may achieve that goal, but it won't be in God's will. It's like if you try to do anything out of God's will, it just won't be the best thing for you. It might cause you mental issues, physical issues, sickness, death, health, or whatever the case may be, because it's not in His will. But like it's just not in his will. So it won't really cause whatever you're looking for, you're just gonna keep doing bad and just keep searching for bad. Like you're gonna literally strive for anything that can help you, but it just may not be good for you.
Okay.
So it's not in his will. But if it's in his will, it will just be good for you, even suffering, you know? So it's more of like how I talked about being comfortable, being disciplined. Yeah, sometimes we may not want to work on hard truths, may not want to go to the gym, may not want to do our daily dues, whatever the case may be, or even do this podcast. But if we don't, we know that you guys won't hear this. We know that these pants would be made, whatever the case. We know that whatever the case may be, we just know that the things that we sought out to do wouldn't be accomplished.
Yeah.
So it's like it's his character, it's his will is to be disciplined, self-control. So we have to walk in that path, and these things that he's gave to us can be accomplished. So it's more of just things like that.
Okay.
I don't know why we struggle with. Well, I know why we struggle with it, but even to me, this day I always struggle with it. But it's more of just understanding his faith and knowing he is true. Okay. And then once you kind of get that through your mind, it'll just be easier. He calls us to be uncomfortable. He don't cause us to be comfortable. So like that's why it's like the discipline that he gives us, the things that he set out to do. That's why it's always not the best. Like it's always to our flesh. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Like you're telling me to stay away from sex. Like no, yeah. Like why are you telling me to do that? That's like you're telling me I can't smoke no more. Are you crazy? Yeah. Like you're telling me I can't. It's like it's uncomfortability. I mean, but uncomfortability is a good thing. Suffering is a good thing. It's all that discipline is just to make us into the character that we need to be. So it's really just and to get us to the place that God has called us already to go. So it's like how I just explained with hard truths. Without us showing up every day, nothing would be done or accomplished. So
yeah, now you kind of just answered the question for me, to be honest. And it was just like the question I was going to ask you was like, why do we go through the uncomfortable stages in our life? But you basically answered it saying that like we go through these uncomfortable stages in life because at the end of, let's say, at the end of the run, it's greater than what you ever imagined.
Yeah, and God already went through the God went through the uncomfortable phases of his life so he promises eternal glory at the end of the road, basically. So eternal life, and without the trials and tribulations that he had to go through, without the beatings he had to go through, knowing that because he also says too that you will be crucified for telling the truth, meaning you will be looked upon as bad, or you'll be looked upon as a liar for telling the truth and speaking the truth, or you'll be looked down upon as crazy. So he's literally telling you that once you start doing things that are his way. So once you start, like how I just said, oh, I don't want to have sex no more. Oh, I don't want to speak bad upon nobody no more. Oh, I don't want to drink no more. Oh, I don't want to fall into lust no more. If you start doing those, if you start straying away from those things, people are gonna look upon you as crazy. But the Lord was disciplined enough to know that at the end of the road, eternal life is what you have,
Mm-hmm.
and a full eternity with God is what you have. So it's like, since Jesus Christ was disciplined enough to know the truth and to believe and have faith in the truth, now look where he's at. So it's really just be disciplined and self-controlled, and to know what he says, and know that he is in you and that you have the full characteristics of him. You just need to continue to exercise it more and more. We all need to continue to exercise it more and more. Like, all of us. Like, that's why it's also a journey too, and just understanding it's a process, that every single day is really just trying to break our flesh and getting that uncomfortability, getting into that uncomfortability. So yeah.
100%.
But yeah, that's basically it. Comment down below what other more topics that you want us to talk about, anything that we can improve on.
Anything that you want to see. Yeah.
And thank you.
Appreciate it.